Hi, everyone. I'm actually really excited to talk to you guys here today about something that personally has completely changed the way that I see myself as a teacher, and that is through national board certification. So I know within this program and the MST team program, we are all about wanting to care about growth. We're looking at equity education and just overall just strong instructional practices. So I personally believe that National Board align perfectly with a lot of the things that we've talked about here at Cal State Fullerton, especially within this master's program. So I want to kind of give you like a clear and honestly a really honest overview about what this process kind of looks like, what it's taught me, and why I think it's one of the things that are honestly we're all capable of doing so. So a little bit about me and kind of who I am. So my name is Ili Quintana. I am an MSTT 2025 graduate. I've been teaching science for 4 years. So some of the subjects that I kind of taught over the years have been biology, environmental science, life science, human anatomy, and physiology, as well as biomedical sciences, if you're familiar with Project Lead the Way. I currently teach at Walnut Valley Unified School District. So I'm over there at one of the high schools. So kind of what is national board certification, and we're going to start with the basics on that. So it is essentially a voluntary thing that most educators do. Again, but as one of your options to do your capstone for this project, national board is one of them. It is recognized nationally and it's across the country. So it's kind of like, to me, like one of the highest things you can get as a K through 12 teacher. It is built around the five core propositions, and it asks you to basically show how your teaching impacts students in learning into like deep and meaningful and equitable ways. So if you look at those five components there, so you know that teachers are committed to students and their learning. Teachers know the subject that they teach, and we'll get to what you have to do to qualify for that, and how they teach it to them. They're responsible for managing and monitoring student learning, so looking at assessments. They can think systematically about their practice and learn from their experiences. So you'll learn throughout this process. It's super reflective. And then lastly, that our teachers are members of the learning community. So within one of the components as well, you are connecting with not only your community, your PLC, your students, counselors, ELD personnel, and so forth. So some of the requirements to do national board certification is that you just have to possess a bachelor's degree from any accredited institution, or institution, sorry. You must have a valid state teaching license uh, within your established state. And then the last, kind of the biggest thing I would say on here as well, is that you must successfully complete 3 years of teaching at one or more early childhood, elementary, middle, or secondary schools to achieve board certification. So here are some of the available certificate areas. So it's a variety of a huge range of them. So we got some art, all the way to English, health education, math, science, PE, music, and so even world languages and so forth. So here's kind of the overview that I will be going over and just kind of the things to know while wanting to join national board or to do national board. There are 4 components total, so 4 modules. The whole time you must be submitting evidence. That's videos, that's student samples. A lot of people compare this to kind of like doing your TPAs once again. Um, it's very similar. I do have some similarities on why I think it's the same and why I personally think national board may be a little bit better. And I want to say it now as you've grown as a teacher since doing your TPAs, because most of them might have been during like your early teaching stages. There's a lot more to national board that you can, I think, will be more beneficial. Um, each component costs about $475, so making this total process $1,900. Now, there are some schools, or most schools, qualify for a grant that you can apply through the National Board website. And it covers about 2,500 or 2,400. Essentially, it lets you cover all 4 components and letting you redo one component as well. And then lastly, a really important one is it is very fast paced, I would say. It's challenging, not gonna lie, but it's super rewarding. It's fast paced because considering those who are not in our master's program, they probably do this within 2 years and they have a 5 year range to resubmit anything on that cycle. I believe that's the correct timeline, at least with that 5 years. Um, in this master's program, you're doing this within about 7 to 8 months. So it is super fast paced. I have a lot of colleagues who have done this and have genuinely been shocked that I was able to do this pretty fast. It's doable, but essentially it is kind of a fast paced thing. So to quickly kind of go over each component, component one is just content knowledge assessment. So you'll just schedule an appointment to take at a, like for example, for like a piercing testing location or anywhere the national board kind of uses that testing facilities. Very similar if you've ever taken the CSAT, it's kind of the same process where you kind of go, schedule online, and then you show up and do the whole process. The overview of the assessment, it's about 45 selected responses with 3 constructed responses, and it's really looking at basically knowledge and pedagogy. The nice thing about component one is that it's not required for your MSTT capstone. So throughout the whole time of your, I guess, your second year, you're only focusing on component two, component three, and component four. The nice thing about it is you'll finish most likely all components by April, maybe May. By then, you have at least a month to be studying and preparing yourself for component one. So it's a pretty good timeline because component one has a little bit of a later date versus the portfolio for 2, 3, and 4. For component two, this is about differentiating in instruction. So this is where you get to choose 3 instructional activities that basically support your instruction and help achieve students with a conceptual understanding of a major idea. So this is kind of specifically towards science. Here you'll be submitting some student work examples for each activity, and you'll also be coming up with the culminating assessment. So this will basically show evidence of evaluating students' progress in their learning. So this is, again, we talk about differentiating instruction in one of our courses. So a lot of the things I was kind of able to kind of pick and choose from stuff that I've already worked on in some of my courses and apply it to my national board. So that's been really nice, is that a lot of the classes have aligned with some of the things I did in national board and what I submitted. For component 3, this is the scariest one because this one you do have to submit 2 videos. It's the 10 to 15 minute videos unedited, just basically recording yourself using 2 different teaching strategies. For my personal thing, I did a student inquiry and a student-led instruction. And then the second one that I did was small instruction. So I did stations and I kind of just sat with a small group and I adjusted to each group as I went. This is just basically going to show the assessors how you build a productive learning environment. It's going to highlight your student engagement, how they question with one another, how you are able to maybe probe questioning, provide feedback for students, and just showing that assessment in use. Again, they really want an emphasis on student-centered teaching and learning and collaboration. Some tips to know about this is just make sure you have some, like an iPhone or any kind of phone will do really well to submit those videos. One challenge that I kind of faced with recording was I bought the little microphones thinking that it was going to be the greatest idea, but those microphones are so clear and they pick up just your conversations. It was really hard to pick up students' conversations. So I had to do a lot of troubleshoot to see what was the best way to kind of showcase what I needed to submit to national board within the 10 to 15 minute time period. Always record early and record often. My biggest advice that I got is don't wait for the perfect lesson. Obviously, we try to create lessons that are absolutely perfect, and I don't think we're at, like, creating a perfect lesson is hard, right? And it's really hard to achieve. So the more often that you're recording and the assessors see more the authenticity of it and the way you can write it in your reflection, that's kind of what they're looking for. Last component is component 4. So this is going to focus on assessments and learning outcomes. It also focuses on your growth as a teacher. So this is very reflective. It will include like assessments that you've used, the student data that you've collected, and basically your professional contributions within like your POC, for example. This will also show how you learn and contribute it to your teaching community. So you can identify a need within your POC or within just your classroom and kind of talk about it that way. So why should you consider? So for me, this process definitely gave me a powerful way to grow and be a reflective practitioner, especially in an instructional leader as well. It's not about just providing, or at least it's not proving that you're a great teacher. It's more becoming a better one. It's really, again, it's super, super reflective. Um, there's a lot of places that also give you some benefits, at least some salary wise. In my district, we got a 2% incentive if we were national board certified. And then a couple of the things to kind of note that I kind of wrote on the slide as well. It helps you just become more intentional and reflective with your instruction in general, because you're always constantly asking yourself why you teach the way that you do. A lot of professional growth. Basically, every component also revolves around what your students are learning and not just what you're teaching. So it kind of really forces you to consider the impact that you're making as an educator. You'll also learn how to articulate your pedagogy in ways that can go beyond just your gut instinct, because it's all based off of equity and evidence as well. It's going to help you open up doors. Again, you're recognized within your district. There's mentorship opportunities and so forth. I also personally think this is the biggest thing that I really felt for going to doing this as my capstone is you have so much support in this whole process. Again, my colleagues did this all on their own. With this in your program, you have a cohort, you have typically a couple other people who are also doing national board with you. I don't want to say you trauma bond, but you kind of do, because you're always relying on one another, asking questions. You have a professor who is trained to really help guide you in the national board, as well as you also have a coach and a mentorship that you can reach out to. So there's a lot of support that my colleagues don't get that we do, and that I'm super grateful for, because I feel like I kind of had an upper leg and I felt like I had a lot of resources that I was able to reach out to. There's Facebook groups also online. We have a specific Canvas site that we also use as well. So there is a lot of reasons to take it while you're in your master's program. So again, some incentives. If you haven't cleared your credential yet, like the BIPSA, you can definitely use this to clear it. In some locations, you get a $25,000 stipend or a grant to any of those who are certified at listed qualified schools. Again, you can get a $2,500 grant, which it covers the cost of all of your submissions and plus one redo. And then again, districts can also offer some stipend. Also, I think it's a huge achievement that I also like to give an incentive is just kind of bragging rights. They kind of go around and say like, I'm nationally board certified. So that's also a fun thing to kind of add on there as well. So I'll be honest, there have been challenges and there's been moments where I did feel overwhelmed or even doubted myself throughout this process, but every challenge did help me grow. So if you go into it expecting imperfection and viewing this process more of a reflective journey and not just an end result, I think you'll be in a great place. So some of the things that I thought were challenges was, again, it's fast paced. You do it within your second year, which is about 7 to 8 months. You do your component 2 your first semester and component 3 and 4 second semester. I think they were pretty well balanced. Once you do component 2, you kind of know what to do for 3 and 4. It kind of flows a little bit easier. Obviously, balancing workload and personal life. I did spend a lot of time going on like coffee dates or to like Panera and Starbucks with my husband just to like take out some of the work. I did this probably, I want to say like 2 times a week, and I think I was pretty much on track. Time commitment, again, you really have to focus, you really have to lock in when you do your national board, because it is a lot of writing. For example, I think component 2 came out to about 40 pages worth, but again, that's the whole semester that you're working on it. Financial reasons. Personally, my school did not give me or did not cover under the grant. So I did have to pay the $1,900 out of pocket. I did find one grant because, again, STEM majors are typically ones that they're always looking for. So there was a grant that they just released for any STEM related educators. So I was able to hop on that, but they did only cover one component. So just keep that in mind. Just double check to make sure your school qualifies. If not, look for grants. Maybe ask someone in your department to see if you can do any professional development funds. But I did have to kind of pay this out of pocket. There are like finance wise, like you can do monthly, but just keep that in mind just to double check. And then lastly, just don't fixate on a perfect lesson. Like I kind of mentioned before, you may not get that perfect lesson while you're recording. They really want to just look at that reflection in your writing and your teaching and how the students are kind of responding to that. So here's some tips for success. I promise there's some good out of it. If you have a good mindset throughout this whole process, I think you're going to succeed well. Remember that you're always doing great things, and obviously this is not going to pin you as, oh, if you didn't pass, you're a bad teacher. Absolutely not. This is not proving yourself you're a good teacher. You're proving yourself that you're reflective and you're looking at all of the reflection that you did over the past 8 months or so. Create a timeline backwards. So that is the biggest thing that I did, and it helped me so much. Start off with the deadline because we have a lot of deadlines to kind of make sure we're on track. Start backwards to ensure that you're going to be successful on the time path. Don't overcoach your class. Don't really tell your students, hey, we're going to be recorded. They don't really want to see that. Again, they want to see authentic thinking coming from your students. When you do your written commentary, stick to evidence and not your emotions. For science teachers, we're really reflective on our writing and we just use a lot of data and evidence. So for example, you can say, I used a formative assessment because, and just go straight to the point. You don't want to say like, well, I feel like this went really well, blah, 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 blah. You want to, again, stay away from kind of like emotions and do more evidence-based writing. Connect with your cohort. Again, there's a lot of support groups out there that you're going to be really connecting with while this process. And always just give yourself some grace and celebrate some of the small wins. Even just finishing one rough draft is going to feel really great. Just kind of specific on subject or content. As science educators, we are always facing unique challenges in like balancing inquiry, content, and safety within our classroom. National board obviously will acknowledge a lot of that. So you're not just, again, being evaluated for how well you talk about mitosis, for example, right? You're being more recognized for how you help students experience and connect to science. So again, we're looking at like phenomena-based, not just content delivery. That's not the whole point of how you deliver content. But again, you're building inquiry and helping those students think like scientists. There's an overarching theme, there's a real world phenomenon that you're focusing on that I really want you to showcase in your national board. Okay, lastly, kind of just to circle back on everything. So what I've personally gained, I believe I became more of a reflected educator. I learned to articulate my why and why I'm doing this and why I became an educator. I definitely grew a lot in confidence and clarity. I think from the last 2 years, just being in this program and doing my national board, I've seen a lot of growth in myself, as well as even my students. I definitely think this is something that I would encourage you to explore. You obviously don't have to be a perfect teacher. You just have to be thoughtful, reflective one. And that's just kind of who we are in this room right now. We're all super reflective. We're super thoughtful, especially with being within this program. Again, here are some resources. So if you do want to get started or still are looking into ways to kind of see this out, you can obviously go on the National Board website. There you can definitely find financial assistance. You can see if you apply for or you qualify for the grant. You can try, I believe you can start looking at the Canvas National Board page, as well as any Facebook groups. There's a whole bunch of Facebook groups. So again, you can just look at some of those resources, and you can always reach out to me if you would ever like to, as well as all of your professors. But other than that, thank you for listening. I really excited to kind of see how much reflection that you do from this. I know we're all in this program together, and I think this will be a great capstone for you. Thank you.